Project Sentinel, Episode 17, The Weaver's First Breath 1. The Tactical Handshake. The docking was precise. The Vigilant settled into Bay 2, on the opposite side of Level 4 from the chrysalis holding the alien vessel, with a series of heavy metallic thuds that vibrated through the station's spine. On Level 10, Ilara monitored the umbilical seal. Once the green confirmed atmospheric parity, she opened the comms. "Commander, Captain Kray is on his way up again," Ilara reported. Vance stood by the central map table, the 3-inch hybrid tile resting there like a silent promise. When the elevator doors opened, Kray stepped onto the command deck alone. He looked at the tile, then at Vance, his expression hard. "You're asking me to let your engineers peel back the skin of a frontline SFDF warship director," Kray said, skipping the formalities. "My hull is rated for high-velocity kinetic impacts and thermal venting. It's proven. This kinetic sponge of yours is a lab experiment." Vance didn't flinch. He picked up the tile and tossed it to Kray. The captain caught it, his arm tensing for a weight that never came. He stared at it, confused by the lack of mass. "Tap it, Captain," Vance said. Kray struck the tile with his thumb. The sound was a dense, mountain-like thud that seemed to vibrate in the very air. "The Vigilant is the fastest patrol craft in the fleet because of its thrust-to-weight ratio," Vance explained. "If we replace your ceramic carbon plates with this hybrid lattice, we drop your mass by 40% while increasing your hull strength by a factor of 10. And that's before we even talk about the absolute vector mapping." 2. The proposition. Kray set the tile back on the table. "You're talking about more than armor. You're talking about turning my ship into a testbed for that alien drive. I'm talking about making the Vigilant the only ship in human history that can ignore the distance between the sun and the Kuiper Belt," Bradley added, stepping forward from the science station. "We've established Sol Prime, 000 as the anchor. With the regulator stone's resonance on board, your ship won't fly to its destination. It will occupy the target coordinate." Zahn crossed his arms. "The hybrid lattice is the key. The lunar dust changes the molecular consistency when spliced with the alien blueprint. The result is independent, no direct link to the stone, and it blocks the resonance field. Your crew stays safe, no tuning, no adaptation, just a stronger ship." Kray looked at the tile, then at the 3 men before him. "And if it fails, if your weavers missynthesize a single panel, then we lose a testbed," Vance said evenly. "But if it works, we gain a fleet that can cross the solar system in hours instead of months." The room fell quiet. The hybrid tile sat on the table, impossibly light, impossibly strong. Kray exhaled slowly. "My crew stays on board. My engineers oversee every step, no exceptions." "Agreed," Vance said. "But your engineers report to Zahn. We're starting with the primary engine housing and the forward sensor array. We need the weavers on Level 6 to begin the synthesis immediately." 3. The decision. Kray looked out through the vertigo dome at his ship. The Vigilant was his home, his responsibility. "If I agree to this, my crew stays on board. My engineers oversee every weld, or synthesis, as you call it." Kray nodded slowly. "And the 50 new personnel arriving, are they here for the station or for my ship?" "They're here for the station," Vance replied. "Level 6 manufacturing and the new living quarters are finished and ready for habitation. Pressurized, life support online, berths and basic facilities operational. The extra hands are for cradle expansion, weaver synthesis, hull growth, and Phase 2 operations. Your ship gets oversight, not occupation." Kray stared at the tile for a long moment. Then he looked up at Vance. 48 hours, he said. You have 48 hours to prove this isn't suicide. After that, my ship leaves, with or without your new skin." Vance extended his hand. 48 hours. Kray shook it. The handshake was brief, professional, and carried the weight of a contract signed in silence. 4. The arrival. As the conversation concluded, Ilara's console chirped. The heavy transport ship was now within visual range, its bulky frame casting a long shadow over the Vigilant on the opposite side of the station. "Transport Atlas is on final approach for Docking Bay 1, Ilara announced. 50 personnel standing by for transfer. Engineering, Science, and SFDF Security." Vance looked at Kray. "There's no turning back now, Captain. In 48 hours, the Vigilant will be the most advanced vessel in the system, or the most dangerous." "Let's hope for the former," Kray said, turning toward the elevator. "I'll tell my crew to prepare for the synthesis. Just make sure your Weavers don't turn my ship into a ghost." 5. The Weaver's first breath. The transport Atlas docked with a heavy, resonant thud on Bay 1, between the chrysalis holding the alien vessel and the Vigilant. The airlock cycled, and the first wave of personnel stepped onto Level 4. 50 men and women in fresh SFDF coveralls, carrying toolkits, diagnostic rigs, and the quiet confidence of people who had been briefed but not told everything. Zahn led the group to Level 6. The manufacturing deck was now fully pressurized and operational. Lights on, air scrubbers humming, living quarters ready with berths, mess facilities, and hygiene stations for the new arrivals. The Weavers hung motionless like silver insects in hibernation. Zahn walked to the master control node. "The blueprint is loaded, hybrid lattice parameters set. The Vigilance engine housing and forward array are the first targets." He entered the activation sequence. A single ultraviolet pulse flashed across the mesh network. The Weavers woke. Emitters flared violet for 0.8 seconds. Cold gas puffs detached them from docking clamps. They moved in coordinated swarms, spiraling toward the dedicated airlock on the outer hull of Level 6, a specialized bay designed for external deployment, wide enough for the entire swarm to exit in waves. The airlock cycled open, the outer doors rising to reveal the black void. The Weavers flew out in formation, ultraviolet bursts guiding them through the vacuum toward the Vigilant, docked on the opposite side of the station from the chrysalis. On the Vigilant, Captain Kray's voice crackled over the comms from his bridge. "Depressurizing sections 3 and 4. Engine housing and forward array clearing now. Crew is in suits. We're ready for your insects." Kray's engineers watched from the internal bulkheads as the sections vented, air hissing out into space. The old ceramic carbon hull plates were exposed, scarred from patrols, pocked with micrometeorite hits. The Weavers arrived in a silver cloud, thrusters puffing invisibly in the vacuum. They formed a scanning grid around the Vigilant, emitters pulsing ultraviolet to map every curve, seam, and mounting point. The process was silent, efficient, the swarm creating a high-fidelity blueprint of the ship's structure in minutes. "Scan complete," Zahn reported from Level 6. "Blueprint merging with hybrid lattice parameters. Weavers returning for regolith load." The swarm disengaged, spiraling back toward the Cradle's airlock like a flock returning to nest. Back on Level 6, the Weavers reloaded with lunar regolith from the staging hoppers. Primary units dipped into the dust, vacuum sintering it into ceramic base plates while trailing units extruded nanotube reinforcement, infusing the mix with the alien ferrous organic matrix. The first hybrid panel began to form, a shimmering, charcoal-colored sheet that grew layer by layer. It looked more like living tissue than metal. Zahn watched the process on the monitor. "They're breathing," he said quietly. "The lattice is integrating the regolith. The molecular consistency is changing. The tiles will be independent. No crystal needed." Bradley stared at the forming panel. "And the resonance field?" "We have the frequencies mapped," Zahn replied. "We're working on replication. But the hybrid matrix blocks it. The crew will be safe." The Weavers continued their silent symphony, spinning the future one layer at a time. On level 10, Ilara watched the process on her remote feed. The station felt different now. Heavier, expectant. The storm was no longer gathering. It had begun. This concludes today's SFDF log. If you want to ensure our signal remains strong across the sector, please hit the like button and subscribe to join the crew. Your support helps us keep the mission alive. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss a transmission. We drop new episodes every Tuesday and Friday at 1800. Until then, keep your mag boots locked. End transmission.